The great secret of life hidden in plain sight, taught by sages, whispered by the wise, and now supported by science is this: your mind is the architect of your destiny. What you hold in the forefront of your consciousness has a peculiar way of manifesting itself in your external world. This is not magic, though it may seem so. This is not chance, though many will call it luck. It is law, immutable, invisible, and operating with mathematical precision. The mind, when harnessed and directed, becomes a magnet, pulling into your experience the people, circumstances, ideas, and resources that harmonize with your dominant mental patterns. And the tragedy or the triumph of life depends on whether we choose to use this law consciously or leave it to default programming. You see, most people are victims of their own unattended thoughts. They think carelessly, wish vaguely, and act sporadically, and then wonder why results never appear with certainty. But those who understand the trick, the mental switch, the deliberate alignment, these individuals seem to glide through life. Not because life is easier for them, but because they've learned to think in a way that attracts everything they need. Now let's slow down and take this one step at a time. Imagine your mind as a field, and your thoughts as seeds. Whatever you consistently plant, whether weeds of worry or flowers of faith, will eventually grow and take over the landscape of your life. This idea is not new, it's as old as humanity itself. But like many eternal truths, it has been ignored, misunderstood, or simply never applied. The trick, if there is one, lies not in positive thinking alone, it lies in dominant thinking. You don't get what you casually think about once in a while, you get what you emotionally dwell upon, repeatedly, with clarity and belief. The man who holds poverty in his mind, even while desiring wealth, will find ways to sabotage his own success. Why? Because the subconscious does not respond to wishes, it responds to expectations, and expectations are built through repetition, emotion, and internal visualization. This is why goal setting, affirmations, and visualization work, not as superstition, but as tools to rewire the inner script you're operating from. Let me give you an example. A young man I once knew started every day by saying, "I'm not good enough." He never said it out loud, he never wrote it down, but inside, where it matters most, he rehearsed this line silently for years. His posture followed, his choices echoed it, and his life reflected it. And yet the same young man, given the same talents, the same opportunities, could have programmed a different internal script, one that said, "I'm learning every day, I bring value, I can serve and grow," and that simple shift, though it sounds small, is everything. It's the trick most people never learn. You must guard your inner dialogue more carefully than a vault, because it becomes your outer life. Every word you say to yourself is planting something, and over time the harvest will come, whether you like it or not. So let me ask you, what are you telling yourself every day? What silent phrases are echoing inside your mind? If you're like most, you've inherited thought patterns from others, parents, peers, society, that no longer serve you. You've been hypnotized, not by a swinging watch, but by repetition, and repetition is the language of the subconscious. You don't need to wait for external permission to change this. You don't need a breakthrough event or a life crisis. You need only to decide right now that your dominant thoughts will be aligned with the life you want, not the one you fear. And here's where the mind trick comes in. Instead of reacting to your environment, you begin to project into it. You become the sender, not the receiver. You impress your vision upon the world, and you hold it quietly, faithfully, unshakably, until the world starts to bend around it. It may sound unbelievable until you try it, but the results are undeniable. Take out a notepad. Write down in clear, present tense language exactly what you desire, not what you hope might happen, but what you expect to experience. Say it aloud each morning, read it at night, see it in your mind, speak it with conviction, and most of all, feel it. Emotion is the fuel. Logic opens the gate, but feeling is what drives it deep into the soil of your subconscious. The man who feels successful before the world confirms it is already halfway there. The woman who walks with dignity before the title is given will be offered the role. The mind trick is not deception, it is alignment. You are not pretending, you are rehearsing reality until it becomes automatic, until it becomes real. The world does not give you what you want, it gives you who you are, and who you are is determined by what you believe, repeated daily, backed by action. The mistake people make is trying to do their way into success while thinking like a failure. They work hard, but they carry doubt. They push forward, but drag fear behind them like a heavy chain. The truly successful reverse this. They think success, embody confidence, speak clarity, and their actions flow naturally from their belief. The action becomes a confirmation of what they already know inside. They aren't waiting for signs, they are creating them. This is what it means to live from the inside out. to let your mind lead the way. Start now. Start today. Don't let this idea remain just an idea. Take 5 minutes and look at your thoughts. Are they aligned with what you truly want, or are they echoes of an old identity? You cannot attract a new life with old thoughts. The law doesn't work that way. The mind responds to clarity, and clarity begins with awareness. What are you feeding your mind? What are you visualizing? What are you rehearsing internally? If you don't know, you're not in control. But the moment you begin to consciously select your thoughts the way a sculptor selects his tools, your world starts to change. Subtly at first, then radically. It always begins inside. We've covered the first piece of the mind trick, becoming aware of your dominant thoughts and deliberately choosing the ones that serve your vision. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into how these thoughts form beliefs and how beliefs create a gravitational field that draws results into your life. But for now, remember this. Your thoughts are building something brick by brick, moment by moment. You are the builder, the architect, and the owner of the finished product, no one else. And the sooner you take full responsibility for this truth, the faster you reclaim the power you were born with. Belief is the architect behind all achievement, and it is formed not through a single moment of insight, but through repeated thoughts stacked consistently over time. Just as a river cuts through rock not by power but by persistence, the beliefs you hold about yourself and your future are carved by the thoughts you return to most often. And here's the critical insight. Belief is not something you wait to feel, it's something you build. Most people believe what they see, but the truth is they see what they believe. That's the trick the world doesn't teach you. If you walk through life expecting little, you'll find reasons to confirm that expectation. If you expect obstacles, you'll attract delays. But if you expect solutions, you'll begin noticing ideas and opportunities that were always there but previously invisible to the untrained eye. The mind is not a camera, it is a projector. It doesn't just record reality, it shapes it. Belief is the lens, and you choose the focus. What you believe determines what you seek. What you seek determines what you see, and what you see over time becomes the foundation of what you receive. Consider this. Two people can walk into the same situation, say a room full of strangers, and one will see opportunity, while the other sees threat. One feels energized, the other intimidated. Why? Same room, same people. The difference is not in the room, it's in the internal script. The first individual believes they belong. They expect connection, interest, maybe even collaboration. Their belief programs their posture, their tone, their willingness to engage. And because of that, they are met with openness. The second individual believes they are out of place. They expect rejection or indifference, and their behavior reflects it. They hesitate, withdraw, and unintentionally communicate distance. The world responds accordingly, and the cycle continues. This is not about fake confidence. It's about becoming deeply aware of the beliefs that run your life, many of which were never chosen, only inherited. And it's about replacing them, patiently and deliberately, with ones that serve your vision. How do you change a belief? You change it the same way it was formed, through repetition, emotion, and exposure to new evidence. Start by identifying the belief that's holding you back. Maybe it's "I'm not worthy," or "I'm always unlucky," or "It's too late for me." Then, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this universally true, or just something I've believed for so long it feels true? Next, install a new belief, not just intellectually, but emotionally. Choose something empowering and present tense. I am worthy of success. I attract the right opportunities. Every day I grow stronger and clearer. Then repeat it, with feeling, until your subconscious accepts it as fact. And here's where the real magic happens. Your behavior begins to align with that new belief. Your eyes start to recognize doors that were always open. Your voice changes. Your choices change. People around you notice the difference, though they may not be able to name it, but you'll know. You rewrote the script. You adjusted the magnet. And you must remember, belief is not about hype. It's not about emotional frenzy or blind optimism. It is quiet, calm, unshakable inner certainty. Think of a thermostat. It doesn't shout. It simply sets the environment. Your beliefs are your internal thermostat. If your financial beliefs are set to struggle, you'll always find a way to return to scarcity, even after a windfall. If your self-worth thermostat is set too low, you'll sabotage healthy relationships. But if your internal setting is aligned with abundance, with contribution, with worthiness, you'll naturally move in that direction. And even when challenges come, you won't be thrown off course. Why? Because you'll return to your set point. That is the power of belief. It doesn't avoid turbulence. It outlasts it. It stays steady. and in doing so transforms the environment around it. Many people say, "I'll believe it when I see it," but the ones who rise say, "I'll see it because I believe it." They understand that belief precedes evidence, and belief produces evidence. That's how all progress begins. Someone believes something that isn't visible yet, and they move toward it anyway. They build the bridge as they walk. They plant the tree even when there's no shade. That's what leaders, inventors, pioneers, and creators do. And you don't need to change the world to practice this. You only need to change yours, one belief at a time, one internal upgrade at a time, one quiet commitment, repeated until it becomes louder than the doubts. That's how the mind trick becomes second nature. Let me ask you now, what do you believe about yourself? About your ability to grow? About your future? Don't give the answer you think sounds good. Give the real answer, and then decide if you're willing to keep living with it. Because here's the truth. Your life will never rise higher than your dominant belief, not your wish, not your desire, your belief. And belief is not found in your words, it's proven in your habits. Look at what you do consistently. That's what you truly believe. But the good news is this, if you can see the pattern, you can change it. If you can name the belief, you can replace it. You are not stuck, you are not fixed, you are programmable, and you hold the pen. We are now moving beyond thinking and into identity. The next step of the mind trick is embodiment. You cannot merely think rich. You must think, act, and carry yourself as someone who is already aligned with wealth. You cannot just desire health. You must begin moving, speaking, and eating like one who treasures vitality. This isn't about deception, it's about rehearsal. You are training your nervous system to become familiar with the reality you seek. And once it feels familiar, your resistance fades. And when resistance fades, results accelerate. This is the missing piece most people overlook. They keep the goal separate from themselves. I want to become that. No, you must become it in mind and body now, not when it arrives so it can arrive. So to apply this starting today, choose one belief to reprogram. Just one. Write it down, declare it, repeat it in your own voice, look in the mirror and speak it with certainty, and then act in alignment with it. Every small behavior that matches this belief becomes a vote for your new identity. This is not something you do once. This is a discipline, but if you practice it, I promise your life will begin to mirror the belief. Not overnight, but inevitably, because the mind once set is a magnet, and belief is the charge. You are not chasing results anymore. You are drawing them in, quietly, consistently, with certainty. In the next part, we'll explore how action becomes the amplifier of belief, how to turn your internal alignment into momentum that creates results in the outer world. But until then, remember this truth: you are not waiting for the world to change. You are changing yourself and the world responds. You are not asking for permission. You are claiming your power, and you are no longer hoping for a better life. You are becoming the kind of person that a better life belongs to. Action is the evidence of belief. It is where thoughts leave the quiet realm of the mind and enter the world of cause and effect. Many people hope, wish, even affirm, and yet their life remains static. Why? Because their behavior does not match their internal vision. Action is alignment in motion. It is the bridge between the inner world you've created and the outer world you desire. If you truly believe something, you will move in accordance with it. And if you do not move, then somewhere inside you do not yet believe. That is not a condemnation. It is an invitation to examine what's truly driving you. Are you acting as a creator or merely waiting as a spectator? The difference is critical, because results are drawn not just to thought, but to thought expressed through disciplined action. It's not enough to visualize abundance. You must step into rooms where abundance is exchanged. It's not enough to say you're a leader. You must begin leading, even if your only follower is yourself, showing up consistently. The universe does not reward identity alone. It rewards identity demonstrated. Let me tell you a story. A man once came to me and said, "I've written my goals down every day for 6 months, but nothing has changed." I asked him, "What actions have you taken?" He paused. "Well, I've been thinking a lot about them." And there it was. Thinking is vital, yes. But thinking without movement is paralysis disguised as progress. You must marry thought with execution. Clarity without courage is just a comfortable daydream. The mind trick, remember, is not about passive magic. It is about programmed certainty, backed by intentional steps. Small steps at first, but deliberate, consistent, predictable, because nothing rewires your identity faster than consistent behavior. Want to think of yourself as disciplined? Show up for the plan, even when it's inconvenient. Want to believe you're worthy of success? Take one bold action today that aligns with that truth. Belief grows in the soil of behavior, and the more congruent they are, the stronger the magnet becomes. This is where many people stop short. They say, I'm waiting for motivation. But action is not the result of motivation. Motivation is the result of action. You move and then the energy follows. You don't wait to feel ready. You choose to begin even while feeling uncertain. The most powerful people I've ever met are not the most confident, they are the most consistent. They take action despite fear. They honor their schedule, not their mood. They don't debate every move, they decide once and then act repeatedly, and over time their world begins to bend to that rhythm. This is the great secret most overlook. The world respects follow-through. It responds to rhythm. And the person who acts with integrity to their own plan gains not just results, but self-respect. And that self-respect becomes fuel. Confidence, you see, is not a personality trait. It is the byproduct of promises kept to yourself. There's something about decisive action that begins to change how others treat you. They may not know why, but they sense it. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you enter a room, something is different. Because you've begun to move like a person who is going somewhere. You are no longer drifting. You are sailing with a destination in mind. The people who attract resources, relationships, and opportunities do not stumble through life. They make clear movements, and those movements create ripple effects. Think of it this way. If belief is the engine, then action is the ignition. It turns everything on. But if you never turn the key, the engine sits idle, full of potential but producing no power. The trick again is not complexity. It's clarity and consistency. Decide what you want. Believe it is yours. Then act again and again as if it is already done. And slowly your outer world catches up to your inner one. Let's get practical. Every day, schedule at least one action that aligns with your belief. It can be small, a message sent, a meeting scheduled, a step taken. But let it be real, visible, trackable. Write it down, then do it, and do it again tomorrow. You are building momentum. Momentum is invisible at first, but soon it becomes undeniable. It changes how you feel about yourself, and more importantly, it changes how the world responds to you. Don't underestimate the compound effect. A single domino may seem insignificant, but line them up, tip the first, and watch how much force is released. Your actions today are setting up a future chain reaction, but you must begin. You must tip the first one. That is your responsibility. No one else can do it for you. This is how you separate wishers from achievers. Wishers think. Achievers think and act. And in the process of action, they refine their thinking. They make adjustments. They learn. They grow. But they never remain still. Stagnation is the enemy. Progress is the goal, not perfection. And the great lie is that you need to know everything before beginning. You don't. You only need to start. The next step will reveal itself after the first is taken. That's how confidence is earned. That's how belief is deepened. That's how dreams become visible, not through contemplation alone, but through motion. If there's one habit I could give every person alive, it would be this. Take aligned action daily, no matter how small. That habit alone would transform nations. Now let's link this back to the mind trick. When you begin acting in alignment with the vision you've built inside, your brain begins to rewire itself. New neural pathways form, new self-concepts emerge, and here's what's fascinating. Your body follows, posture improves, energy rises, stress reduces. The biology of belief is no longer theory, it's observable. When you act as if your dream is already yours, your physiology supports you. You sleep better, you speak clearer, you remember more. Your mind sharpens, your spirit strengthens, and the magnet becomes stronger. Because belief without action is like a spark with no fuel. It flashes and disappears. But belief with action, that's a fire that cannot be extinguished. So take the next step. Not tomorrow, not next week, today, this hour. Choose one act that confirms your belief. One move that proves to your subconscious, I mean this. Don't just listen to this message, live it, and watch what happens. The universe is always watching, waiting. When it sees you step in faith, it moves resources into your path. That's not mysticism, that's alignment. That's the cause and effect nature of this law. You are not here to wait. You are here to work, not blindly, but intelligently, strategically. Belief, then behavior. Behavior, then momentum. And momentum changes everything. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how environment, Your surroundings, your associations, your routines either support or sabotage your mental magnet. Because once belief is set and action begins, the ecosystem around you must evolve to match it. But for now, commit to movement. Remember, the magnet doesn't pull until it's charged, and action is the charge. Take the step, create the current, attract the life. Environment is the silent sculptor of identity. It shapes your thoughts, habits, decisions, and even your self-perception, often without your awareness. If your mind is a magnet, then your environment is the forge that either strengthens or weakens its charge. And make no mistake, your surroundings are never neutral. They are either pulling you toward your vision or anchoring you to your old self. You cannot afford to ignore this. Look around at the people you speak to most often, the places you spend time in, the inputs you consume daily. Ask yourself, are these shaping the person I am becoming, or keeping me in the loop of who I've always been? Because no matter how powerful your internal beliefs are, if your environment constantly contradicts them, you will feel friction. And if you feel friction long enough, something will give. Either the environment changes or your belief fades. That's why changing your environment consciously and strategically is not a luxury. It is a necessity for transformation. Let's take this deeper. Imagine planting a seed in poor soil, under a rock, without sunlight or water. Even the most potent seed, the kind with world-changing potential, will wither. Why? Because the conditions do not support its growth. The same is true with your mind. You can program it with vision, affirm it with belief, fuel it with disciplined action. But if you return daily to a toxic environment, you're placing that seed back under the rock. What kind of environments are we talking about? Relationships that speak limitation, habits that reinforce mediocrity, digital input that numbs rather than nourishes, surroundings that clutter your clarity. These are not small obstacles. These are the very soil your identity is growing in. If you want the mind trick to work long-term, you must till the soil. You must design the environment that aligns with the life you're building. You must become the architect of your surroundings, not a tenant in someone else's blueprint. Begin with people. Nothing affects your belief system more than consistent conversations. Words carry power. Energy is contagious. If you're surrounded by those who speak doubt, sarcasm, or fear, eventually those vibrations seep into your system. It's not weakness, it's physics. You become what you're immersed in. So choose wisely. Seek out voices that challenge you, elevate you, remind you of your potential. This doesn't mean cutting everyone off or living in a vacuum. It means curating influence. If your dream is sacred, treat it as such. Guard it from casual cynicism. Protect it from careless doubt. Surround yourself with voices that speak the language of growth. Books, audio, mentors, peers. You don't need thousands. You need a few whose presence strengthens your alignment. Every time you spend energy, ask yourself, did this interaction sharpen me or soften me? Did it add to my charge or drain it? Then assess your physical space, your room, your desk, your phone, your calendar. Are they organized around clarity and intention, or clutter and distraction? A disordered space leads to a disordered mind, and the mind trick depends on clarity. When you walk into a space that feels designed for growth, your brain gets the message, we are becoming. But if you walk into chaos, you begin every day climbing uphill. Structure your environment for success. Keep reminders of your goal visible. Declutter what doesn't serve. Create spaces where you can think, plan, move. You don't need wealth to do this, you need will. Even a small room can become a temple of discipline and inspiration if treated with respect. Order is not just aesthetic, it's psychological. It tells your subconscious that you're in control, and control, calm, consistent control is what sustains the magnet of belief. Now consider your routines. What you do daily is your true environment because it's where you live most often in time. If your day is designed by default, your outcomes will be random. But if your day is designed by vision, your outcomes become inevitable. A powerful mind trick begins with intentional mornings. Rise earlier than comfort demands. Begin with silence, reflection, or reading before the world gets loud. Start with your vision, not with other people's agendas. Then plan. Act. Rehearse your beliefs. Move your body. Strengthen your frame. These small routines, repeated with care, build the internal infrastructure for greatness. They shape your identity more than any single event. They make the extraordinary feel normal, and when greatness feels normal, you attract it as if it were always yours. Be warned, your old environment will resist your evolution. Comfort zones are not passive, they fight back. You'll be tempted to keep one foot in the old world while reaching for the new, but that tension will drain your energy. You must choose, you must commit fully to the new environment that matches your vision. And sometimes that means stepping away from what's familiar, not because it's bad, but because it's no longer aligned. Growth always involves separation, not in anger, but in necessity. You cannot bloom in every garden. You must find the soil that welcomes your roots and supports your rise. And when you do, your energy multiplies, your thinking clears, your pace quickens. You begin attracting things that match your environment, not just your imagination. Let me give you a practical challenge. For the next 7 days, conduct an environment audit. Observe the voices you hear, the spaces you move through, the habits you repeat. Write them down. Track how each one makes you feel before, during, and after. Then ask, does this align with who I'm becoming? If not, change it. Don't wait for permission. Clean the desk, mute the noise, pause the interaction, invest in the upgrade. These may feel like small decisions, but remember, your outer world is a mirror of your inner commitment. Every time you change your environment to match your vision, you reinforce the belief that the vision is real. And when you live as if the vision is real, the vision begins to become reality. Here's the deeper layer. Your environment doesn't just reflect you, it teaches you. It trains your nervous system, your expectations, your behavior. A chaotic space teaches you to rush. A high-energy peer teaches you to rise. A book left open to a powerful line teaches you to remember. Every detail counts. Nothing is neutral. You're either feeding the magnet or dulling it. That's why the most successful people are often obsessive about their space, their schedule, their circle. Not out of control, but out of clarity. They know that consistency isn't about willpower, it's about architecture. When the environment is aligned, discipline becomes easier. When the structure supports belief, the belief strengthens. And the magnet, your mind, draws in what it's been programmed to expect. In the next part, we'll explore how language, what you say, what you write, what you declare, further cements or sabotages your internal magnet. Because even with strong belief, aligned action, and supportive environment, your words can still direct the current. But for now, remember this. The mind trick works best when everything around you reinforces the truth you've chosen. You don't just think success, you live inside it. You breathe it in your room, you hear it in your conversations, you see it in your habits. And when all parts of life agree, manifestation becomes momentum. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Spoken language is thought made audible, energy made physical, and belief made visible. Every time you speak, you reinforce identity, program your subconscious, and shape your emotional atmosphere. And whether you realize it or not, you are speaking your future into form. The greatest minds in history understood this, that speech is not mere description, it is creation. What you say repeatedly becomes the boundary of what you believe, and what you believe becomes the limit or the launch pad of what you receive. If your inner dialogue is the soil of your destiny, then your spoken words are the water. You can nourish the seeds of your dream or drown them with doubt. This is why the fifth pillar of the mind trick is mastering language. To attract what you desire, your words must reflect certainty, alignment, and expectancy, not fear, confusion, or contradiction. You cannot say one thing and expect another. You must speak the same way you would if the dream were already realized. Calm, clear, certain. Now let's address the most overlooked area, self-talk. Most people would never speak to a loved one the way they speak to themselves. Harsh, doubting, dismissive. I'll never get it right. I always mess things up. This isn't for people like me. These phrases sound harmless when said in frustration. But repeated often enough, they form mental grooves, deep subconscious pathways that the brain defaults to under pressure. And here's the danger. The subconscious doesn't filter. It accepts repeated language as truth. It doesn't ask if you're joking. It doesn't check your mood. It obeys instructions. So when you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, your subconscious begins searching for evidence to confirm that. You walk into a room and feel smaller. You take fewer risks. You interpret rejection more personally. Not because it's true, but because you made it true through repetition. But the opposite is also true. When you begin to speak to yourself with clarity and respect, when your words affirm your value, your power, your progress, you shift the subconscious instructions. And soon the world follows. Here's the practical shift. Begin speaking in identity-based declarations. Not I hope I succeed, but I am a person who finishes what I start. Not I'll try to be confident, but I am calm, capable, and ready. These are not affirmations in the shallow sense. These are identity commitments. Spoken daily with emotion and repetition, they override the old script. And just like muscles respond to repetition and resistance, so too does your mental framework. The more you say it, the more real it becomes. You may not feel it at first. That's normal. Speak it anyway. Speak it until it begins to shape your posture, your tone, your decisions. The voice you hear most often is your own. Make sure it's working for you, not against you. Let's now move beyond inner dialogue to outer language. What do you speak about when you're with others? Do you declare vision or rehearse limitation? Do you magnify problems or articulate possibilities? Most people spend their lives talking about what they don't want. I'm tired of being broke. I can't find the right person. Things never work out for me. But the subconscious hears only the dominant message: broke, can't, never. You attract what you emphasize. Speak not of what you lack, speak of what you're creating. Even if it feels awkward at first, speak in alignment. Speak life. Let your words reflect the future you're designing, not the past you're escaping. That shift in language is more than psychological. It's energetic. It changes how you feel and how others feel around you. People respond to the energy behind your words, not just their meaning. This principle extends to how you describe yourself in casual speech. Watch your labels, watch your jokes. Words like "I'm such a mess," "I'm always late," or "I'm just not good at that" may seem harmless, but they carry weight. Each time you say them, you reinforce an identity, and identities are sticky. If you don't want to keep being that version of yourself, stop speaking as if you are. Replace casual self-deprecation with intentional self-definition. I'm learning to be more organized. I'm improving my timing. I'm developing new skills. These are not just nicer phrases. They are more accurate reflections of someone who is growing. Speak your progress into motion. Let your language show that change is happening, even if it's small, even if it's internal. The mind listens, and the mind responds. Even your questions matter. Weak questions create weak answers. "Why can't I do anything right?" leads to a flood of negative memory and reinforcement. "What can I do today to move forward?" activates your creativity, your focus, your hope. Train yourself to ask empowering questions throughout the day. What's the opportunity here? How would my future self handle this? What belief do I need to reinforce right now? These are not just reflective tools, they are directive ones. They steer your focus, and focus is what sharpens the magnet of the mind. What you ask, you search for. What you search for, you find. What you find, you believe. And what you believe, you begin to live. Here's your assignment for the next 3 days. Track your language, both spoken and internal. Become aware. No need to change everything at once. Just observe, then each night review your most common phrases. Ask, are these aligned with who I am becoming? If not, rephrase. Write down 3 new phrases that reflect your desired identity. Say them aloud in the morning. Repeat them with emotion. Say them again when doubt creeps in. This is not about lying to yourself, it's about leading yourself, because the words you say today become the life you live tomorrow. Understand this. Your language is your script. You are the actor, the director, and the audience. The way you narrate your life becomes the way you live it. If you speak with fear, fear grows. If you speak with conviction, confidence follows. Words are not decorations, they are blueprints, and the house you live in tomorrow is being built with the sentences you speak today. Speak with care, speak with power, speak with intention. In the next part, we will uncover the power of expectation, how your assumptions about life silently dictate your results, and how to raise your internal thermostat to receive more without resistance. But for now, start here. Listen to yourself. Refuse to curse your progress with careless language. Choose words that build the person you're becoming. Speak in alignment with the life you're attracting. And watch, slowly but surely, as the world begins to echo back what your voice has declared. Expectation is the silent architect of results. It is the emotional blueprint your mind builds upon long before anything physical appears. You may believe something is possible, you may speak in alignment with it, and even act toward it, but if you don't expect it, you'll resist its arrival. Expectation is belief matured. It's the point at which doubt no longer dominates the inner conversation. It is calm confidence, not loud, not boastful, but rooted in certainty. And here's the hidden truth. You never rise above your expectation. You may get temporary wins, you may stumble upon opportunities, but you'll find a way to shrink them, sabotage them, or push them away if they exceed your internal forecast. That's why the 6th layer of the mind trick is upgrading your inner thermostat, raising the default level of what you feel you are allowed to receive. Most people don't lack opportunity. They lack the expectation to hold it, nurture it, and let it stay. The good news, expectation can be trained. Like a muscle, it can be stretched, strengthened, and raised, until what once seemed extraordinary becomes your new normal. Imagine for a moment you walk into a hotel where the thermostat is set to 68 degrees. No matter how hot it gets outside, the internal system will cool the room back to the preset level. That's how most people live. They can have a great week, a big win, a breakthrough moment, but if their inner setting is programmed for struggle, self-doubt, or scarcity, they unconsciously cool the room. They return to what's familiar, not because they want to, but because it's what they expect. Your subconscious seeks consistency between what you expect and what you experience. So when results improve but expectation doesn't, the magnet weakens. Your internal system says, "This isn't like us. Let's pull back." And you begin to self-sabotage, not through failure, but through hesitation. You delay, you overthink, you distract yourself. The answer is not more hustle, it's a new setting. Upgrade the internal forecast and the external storm clears. How do you raise your expectations? First, by identifying your ceiling. What is the level of income, love, peace, or power that you subconsciously believe is your maximum? It's often just above your current results. That's not a coincidence. That's programming. Once you see it, you can stretch it. Begin by imagining a new normal. Not a fantasy, not a lottery win, but a logical next level that is just beyond comfort. Hold that vision, not with desperation, but with certainty. Say to yourself, "This is the direction, this is the new rhythm." Then begin acting, dressing, moving, and deciding as if that level were already yours. Expectation is trained through embodiment. You don't wait until you arrive to behave accordingly. You behave accordingly so you can arrive. This is not pretense, it's alignment. Your brain does not distinguish between real and vividly imagined. That's why visualization works. When paired with emotion and repetition, the mind upgrades the standard. And when the standard rises, the magnet strengthens. The world conforms. Another key to cultivating powerful expectation is to become mindful of how you handle small wins. Most people downplay them. They say, "It's no big deal," or "I got lucky," or "It probably won't last," but each of those statements reinforces a low ceiling. If you want to train yourself to receive more, you must celebrate every small win. Not in arrogance, but in confirmation. This is what it feels like to win. This is who I am now. Let your body memorize the sensation. Let your mind associate progress with reward. Over time, you begin to expect good things, not because life is perfect, but because your inner system is tuned to recognize and receive them. When you expect progress, you move toward it. When you expect joy, you spot reasons to be grateful. Expectation isn't entitlement, it's inner readiness. It's the posture of someone who has prepared the table and now watches the door knowing the guest will arrive. You must also become careful with what you expect in the negative. Expecting delays, betrayal, or loss becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain, always loyal, seeks confirmation. So when you say things never go my way, your magnet searches for matching energy, and it finds it. Your words become a signal. Your behavior becomes hesitant. You lose your edge. But when you say everything works in my favor, even delays carry direction, your posture shifts. You handle obstacles differently. You don't panic, you don't fold, and that composure becomes power. The world respects those who remain unmoved, and often expectation alone is enough to turn the tide. Your refusal to flinch can shift outcomes in your favor, not through force, but through steadiness. This is why journaling can be such a powerful tool. Each morning, write what you expect from the day. Be specific. I expect to speak with clarity. I expect to find a solution. I expect to feel calm. You are not commanding the world. You are directing your own system. You're telling your magnet what to search for. And when you end the day, review how your expectations shape your reality. You'll be surprised how often your forecast matches your experience. Not because the world changed, but because you changed the lens. This process turns your vision into reality, not instantly, but consistently. Expectation is not magic. It's alignment, and aligned expectation becomes an invitation. The door opens, not because you forced it, but because you stopped assuming it would stay shut. One last point, expectation is not loud, it's not performance, it doesn't need to convince others, it lives quietly inside you like a silent compass. You may not speak it often, but you move differently. You don't beg, you don't rush, you don't chase. You attract, not by sitting still, but by walking forward with calm certainty. The people who attract the most are rarely the loudest in the room. They are the clearest, they know where they're going, they've seen it before it appears. And their expectation becomes gravity. It draws the right people, the right timing, the right moment. That's the power you hold, not in volume, but in vision, not in struggle, but in setting. You don't need to force the world to deliver. You only need to expect the arrival and prepare accordingly. In the next part, we'll bring all pieces together: belief, action, environment, language, and expectation into one final principle: embodiment. How to live as if the vision is already yours, not through illusion, but through consistency so powerful that reality can't help but keep up. But until then, examine your thermostat. What level are you truly set to? Is it high enough for your dream to survive? If not, raise it, expect more, speak it, move toward it. And trust this: when your expectation becomes unshakable, the world responds not with resistance but with recognition. Embodiment is the final and most powerful phase of transformation. It is when you no longer try to get the result, you become the result. You stop hoping for the outcome and begin living as if it were already real. This is not wishful thinking. This is disciplined alignment. Embodiment means every part of you, thoughts, language, action, posture, decisions, matches the version of yourself that already possesses the life you seek. And here's what most don't realize: the world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. Not what you say, not what you dream, what you consistently live. That's why this seventh and final layer of the mind trick is the most essential. If you do not become the identity your goal requires, the goal will remain distant. But the moment you begin to think, act, and move from that future version of yourself as if it were already normal, you collapse the gap between now and later. Time folds, resistance fades, life begins to treat you like the person you've chosen to embody. Let's be very clear: embodiment is not pretending. It's not putting on a mask. It's not faking it until you make it. It's choosing it until it becomes real. Pretending says, I hope they don't find out I'm not really this. Embodiment says, this is who I am now, regardless of what's around me. It's not about impressing others. It's about impressing the subconscious. When you consistently behave in alignment with your future identity, your mind accepts it as reality. And the body follows. Your voice deepens, your pace slows, your presence expands. You no longer chase outcomes, you carry them. And this calm certainty creates a ripple effect. People respond to you differently, rooms open for you, circumstances shift, not because you've tricked the universe, but because you've stopped tricking yourself. You've stopped living as a fractured version of your potential. You've integrated thought, word, action, and energy into one seamless frequency. Here's how it works in practice. Let's say your vision is to be a leader, an entrepreneur, a speaker, or a healer. Ask yourself, how would that version of me walk into a room? How would they handle pressure? How would they eat, think, speak, rest? Then begin adopting those behaviors now. Not when the title comes, not when the results arrive, but now, before the world gives you confirmation. Because the confirmation will never come first. The embodiment must come first. That's the trick. That's the test. Life waits to see if you are serious, and the proof is always in your behavior. Don't wait to feel confident. Move with composure. Don't wait for validation. Speak with clarity. Don't wait for the spotlight. Practice in the shadows. Embodiment is not about being seen. It's about being real. And realness starts in the smallest decisions: what you tolerate, what you consume, what you allow to linger in your life. Begin there. Upgrade those and your entire life rises with it. This also means letting go of the habits and identities that no longer serve you, because you cannot fully embody a new self while dragging the baggage of your past. That means releasing guilt, shame, self-doubt, and the low standards that feel comfortable but cost you everything. It means forgiving yourself, not because you're weak, but because you're ready to move on. Embodiment is a rebirth, and every rebirth requires death of old habits, old stories, old excuses. That's why most avoid it. It's not easy, but it's necessary. You cannot play small and live large. You cannot think like a victim and build like a visionary. You must choose, not once but every day, until the choice becomes identity, until the behavior becomes natural, until the life matches the level. That's embodiment, and it's the point where results no longer feel like a surprise. They feel like a reflection. Another key: your standards must rise. Embodiment is not just how you behave when things are going well, it's how you respond when tested, when tired, when tempted. The future version of you, what does they do in those moments? Do they compromise, or do they stay consistent? Do they react, or do they respond with calm discipline? Begin modeling that now, because the more pressure you can withstand without breaking character, the faster your transformation occurs. Life is always listening. The question is, are you always embodying? Are you reinforcing your future, or reverting to your history? That's the real work. That's the hidden work. And that's where the true magnet is built. not in public performance, but in private alignment. Let's not forget your energy. Embodiment is not just physical, it's vibrational. People can feel when someone walks in with alignment. They can't explain it, they just know. Your energy enters the room before you do. So ask yourself, is my energy congruent with my future? Or does it still carry the residue of doubt, resentment, confusion? If so, clean it through silence, through prayer, through rest, through clarity. Because you cannot attract what you resent, you cannot hold what you fear. You must love the future before it arrives. Embody it emotionally. Feel the peace, power, freedom, and joy now, not later. Now. Train your nervous system to get familiar with it. Because what's familiar becomes what's allowed, and what's allowed becomes what you attract. This is the final transformation, when you no longer need the result to feel whole, because you have become the kind of person that creates results. That's the mind trick, fully mastered. You start with thought, you refine it with belief, you strengthen it with action, you anchor it with environment, you speak it into motion, you expect it as normal, and then you embody it, you live it, you wear it, you walk in it, and the world watching, waiting, responds accordingly. This is not magic, this is law. Identity precedes outcome, and when the identity becomes stable, the outcome becomes inevitable. In the final part, we will close with a powerful summary and challenge, a 30-day embodiment blueprint to activate every part of what you've learned. But until then, start here. Decide what your future self does, then start doing it now. Stop negotiating, stop rehearsing defeat, embody the standard, become the result, and let life catch up.